Welcome! Today we're making a classic and comforting chicken noodle soup. This recipe is all about creating a rich, flavorful broth and combining it with tender vegetables, juicy chicken, and hearty noodles. Let's dive into the ingredients and steps to make this delicious, heartwarming soup. For the broth, you'll need a whole chicken, or about 4 cups of chicken thighs or breasts. Add 10 cups of water to your pot. We'll also use 1 large onion, peeled and halved, and 3 cloves of garlic peeled. For some hearty flavor, toss in 2 carrots and 2 celery stalks, both cut into large chunks. We'll season our broth with 2 bay leaves, a teaspoon each of dried thyme and dried rosemary. Don't forget to add salt and pepper to taste. For the soup itself, you'll need 2 tablespoons of olive oil or butter. We'll use another medium onion, finely chopped, along with 2 cloves of minced garlic. Add 2 diced carrots and 2 diced celery stalks to the pot. If you like, you can include 1 cup of frozen peas for a touch of sweetness. You'll also need 8 ounces of egg noodles, or any pasta you prefer. Once the broth is ready, we'll shred or chop the cooked chicken meat and add it back to the pot. For garnish, have some fresh parsley chopped and ready. Optionally, a squeeze of lemon juice can brighten up the flavor of your soup. That's all the ingredients you need. Let's get cooking. Let's start by preparing the broth for our chicken noodle soup. First, place a whole chicken, or about 4 cups of chicken thighs or breasts, into a large pot. You're looking to create a flavorful base, so the type of chicken you use is up to you. Next, add 10 cups of water to the pot. This will be the liquid for our broth. To build depth in flavor, add 1 large onion, peeled and halved, and 3 cloves of garlic, also peeled. The onions and garlic will infuse the broth with aromatic goodness. Then add 2 carrots and 2 celery stalks, both cut into large chunks. These vegetables will add sweetness and earthiness to the broth. For seasoning, drop in 2 bay leaves, a teaspoon of dried thyme, and a teaspoon of dried rosemary. The bay leaves and herbs will infuse the broth with their flavors as it simmers. Season with salt and pepper to taste, but keep it light for now. You can adjust the seasoning later. Now bring the pot to a boil over high heat. Once it starts boiling, reduce the heat to low and let it simmer uncovered for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. This simmering time allows the flavors to meld and the chicken to cook thoroughly. After the cooking time, carefully remove the chicken from the pot. Let it cool slightly so you can handle it. Discard the vegetables, bay leaves, and herbs from the broth. Shred or chop the cooked chicken meat, discarding the bones and skin. Set the shredded chicken aside. It will be added back into the soup later. With the broth prepared and the chicken shredded, you're ready to move on to the next step. Now that we've got our flavorful broth and shredded chicken, let's move on to preparing the soup base. In a separate large pot, heat 2 tablespoons of olive oil or butter over medium heat. This will be the base for sautéing our vegetables. Add 1 medium onion finely chopped to the pot. Sauté the onion for about 5 minutes, or until it becomes translucent. This process releases the onion's natural sweetness and builds a flavorful base for the soup. Next, add 2 cloves of minced garlic to the pot. Cook for about 1 minute, stirring constantly until the garlic is fragrant. Be careful not to let it burn, as burnt garlic can taste bitter. Add 2 diced carrots and 2 diced celery stalks to the pot. These vegetables should be chopped into small pieces so they cook evenly and blend well with the soup. Cook the vegetables for about 5 to 7 minutes until they start to soften. Stir occasionally to ensure they cook evenly. At this point, the vegetables should be tender. Pour in the prepared chicken broth that we made earlier. Bring the mixture to a boil over high heat. Once boiling, reduce the heat to medium and let it simmer. This will allow the flavors to blend together and the vegetables to cook fully. With our broth and vegetables simmering nicely, it's time to add the noodles and finish up our chicken noodle soup. First, add 8 ounces of egg noodles or any pasta of your choice to the pot. Stir to ensure they're evenly distributed and not sticking together. Cook the noodles according to the package instructions, which is usually about 5 to 7 minutes. Stir occasionally to prevent sticking. The noodles should be tender, but not mushy. Once the noodles are cooked, add the shredded chicken back into the pot. This will heat through and integrate with the other ingredients. Let the soup simmer for an additional 5 minutes to ensure everything is well combined and heated. If you're using frozen peas, add them to the pot now. They'll cook quickly and add a nice pop of color and sweetness to the soup. Taste the soup and adjust the seasoning with salt and pepper as needed. If you want to brighten the flavors, add a squeeze of lemon juice. This adds a refreshing tang that complements the richness of the soup. When ready to serve, ladle the soup into bowls. Garnish with freshly chopped parsley for a burst of color and fresh flavor. Serve hot with crusty bread or crackers on the side. And there you have it, a delicious homemade chicken noodle soup that's sure to warm you up. Before we finish up, here's some helpful tips for making your chicken noodle soup even better. For a clear and clean broth, skim off any foam that rises to the top while simmering. This foam can contain impurities and will give your broth a clearer appearance. If you want to add extra depth of flavor, consider roasting the chicken and vegetables before adding them to the pot. Roasting caramelizes the natural sugars, adding a rich, savory taste to your broth. Feel free to customize the vegetables based on your preference or what you have on hand. You can add green beans, corn, or even potatoes for a different twist. Just make sure to chop them into small, even pieces so they cook uniformly. If you're making the soup ahead of time, store it in the refrigerator for up to 3 days, or freeze it for up to 3 months. When freezing, cook the noodles separately and add them when reheating to avoid them becoming mushy. Lastly, a squeeze of lemon juice at the end can brighten up the soup's flavor, giving it a fresh, zesty kick. Fresh parsley not only adds a burst of color, but also a touch of freshness. With these tips, your chicken noodle soup will turn out delicious and comforting every time. Enjoy your homemade chicken noodle soup.